All right. So, hey, Taylor, welcome to Life After Paralysis. It's awesome that you decided to let us kind of like ask you all these questions about what you're doing down there in Texas. I know that it's kind of a new sport for you, but let's go back to the beginning. I know that you were injured doing motocross, but let's talk about that if you don't mind. I know that's one of those sports that a lot of, not a lot, but it can be, it's, a dangerous sport. So, yeah, let's talk about, that and how you got into it and how you were injured, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, actually, I'm about to hit my 7 year mark, being
Oh,
living with a spinal cord injury.
okay.
December 29th of 2017, I was racing professional motocross. I had, rode motocross since I was 4 years old. It's come second nature to me. Like you mentioned, I mean, it's a dangerous sport, but I mean, every life's dangerous, right? Or it can be.
Right? Yeah. Hmm.
It's something that I grew up doing and really loved to do. I mean, I played other sports growing up, baseball and things like that.
Okay.
But, nothing gave me that adrenaline rush like motocross, right? Did it. I mean, like I said, 4 years old was on a bike. All the way. I really kind of got a late start in racing, actually. I didn't start racing like competitively
Okay.
until about 13, but I'd rode tracks and always went out to different places with friends and family. So I kind of moved through the ranks pretty quickly. But I was traveling racing. I was on a team sponsored.
Yep.
Was actually at the time of my accident was racing in Lebanon, Missouri,
Okay.
when at arena cross race. So that's indoors, a little
Oh,
bit smaller, like a Coliseum type thing, not like
okay.
your big AT&T stadium or your big stadiums of that. Because at the time they were doing, you had to go through arena cross to get your supercross license, which supercross is like the top of the sport that you see on TV, like racing in like Cowboy Stadium and
Cool.
all those good things like
Yeah.
that. So um, I had just got my pro supercross license, raced local pro, for a couple years, and was traveling, around a little bit of, the southern, I guess, Southwest United States,
Mhm.
just trying to get my, those pro license. Because once you do go pro, you still have to go to certain races to
Okay.
be able to qualify for that license, right?
Mm.
So I was there racing. I just got, like I said, I was sponsored by a team. They wanted me to run their suspension, which, so I ended up making a suspension change on my bike. We were trying to get it ready for Supercross, which are bigger jumps, steeper jumps. So the impact on landing is a lot more. So you need that suspension to kind of compensate that to
Mm.
make it more a smoother transition.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, we just didn't have the settings exactly right.
Mm.
The suspension was a little too stiff for one, but it also was springing the rear end up, and so over every jump I was going over and over the whoops,
Mm.
it was kind of like throwing my front end down and my rear end up. So instead of doing its job and soaking it up, it was actually springing me forward.
Mm.
Um, but I'm a competitor, and I drove 8 hours. Still qualified very good. Just was one of those things. I was like, I'm already here. We're doing it. Like, qualified good. I didn't think obviously it was going to happen to me. Leaving me paraplegic, or
Yeah.
anything like that. But
Mhm.
it wasn't the correct setup, and it was probably would have been best to call it a night. But we were already there. We're good to go. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so, like I said, it was kind of, the rear end was springing me up.
Yeah.
I was, got into the main event for the night. I just passed for third place. I was kind of losing a little bit of time, and what a section called the Wolves is a bunch of little hills, back to back,
Mhm.
um, which you're supposed to go through them and kind of hit your front and rear tire over every single one and stay on top of the Wolves. But I had noticed second place was kind of jumping into them, and then like kind of skimming out. So I was like, with my rear end kind of, nose diving me a lot. It was kind of like a jackhammer, like I was, not going through them very well. But then I was in race mode, and at the time I didn't really think about it. But jumping in was a quick transition because that's they're back to back anyways. And
Mhm.
with my suspension already doing that, it probably wasn't the best idea for me to jump in on like that. And when I jumped in,
Mhm.
I mean, it was just so slow motion.
Really?
The rear end came up. It tossed me over the handlebars, and I'm kind of going through the air very slowly, and
Mm.
ended up you're taught, when you crash and everything, to kind of like, tuck and roll, kind of
Yep.
method, and kind of roll out of it. And with the way it bounced me and was floating through the air, I just wasn't able to get, my legs down or any kind of limbs. I was just going like back first into the last whoop, and I landed on the edge of the hill, back first, and broke T7, T8 vertebrae,
Okay.
which left me paralyzed at T6 on T6 spinal cord injury.
Okay.
Um, I was left unconscious there for several minutes,
Oh,
and
you are? Okay.
yeah, ended up waking up in the ambulance, and
Okay.
which is crazy because at the time they said I was able to kind of move my legs.
Really?
Yeah, so
Weird.
I'm not
Mhm.
sure from there. I don't know, just shock, or
Hmm.
during the process of, I was supposed to get care flighted, but the weather was really bad. It was during the winter, so they
Mm.
couldn't get that in. I had to go by ambulance,
Oh, okay.
just to the nearest, trauma center. So I wish I would have got the opportunity to go to a more advanced spinal cord injury facility.
A lot of
Um,
people say this after their injuries. It's
yeah,
kind of annoying when you think about it in retrospect.
right. I mean, we don't know, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know anything about that life. I mean, as
Yeah.
able-bodied, I had never
Right.
really knew
None
anything about paralysis or wheelchair users or anything like
none of
that,
us do it when you're
right?
first thrown into it. You're like, oh, just
Yeah.
take me somewhere so I don't die. And then you're like, you should have gone somewhere better. Like, great. Yeah.
Yeah, so just went to the nearest, Mercy Hospital
Okay.
there in Missouri,
Yeah.
trauma. Had my surgery. I ended up stuck there for 2 months. So I kind of got a late
Mm.
start on, intense therapy and everything
Yeah.
else. Unfortunately, I had just turned 26. So
Okay.
was in that transition period of getting off, my mom's insurance and
Oh,
getting my
yeah.
own.
Yep.
And, I didn't have the means to get down here back in Dallas
Oh,
to get
no.
in intense therapy yet. So once I was able to get, grant opportunities and things like that, I ended up
Yeah.
coming down here to Baylor, Dallas,
Okay.
inpatient rehab. So
Baylor.
was there for
That's a good place. I've heard good
that
things.
is a good place. Yeah, it's a very good place. Did inpatient there for a couple months, and
Okay.
then started my journey outpatient in a neuro facility down here in Fort Worth, which has been an amazing facility. I mean, I still go to therapy once a week. When I
What's the
obviously
what's the name of that place that you go to once a week?
it's a neurological recovery center, neurokinetics.
Great.
So they have like advanced robotic local mats,
Mm.
all that cool fancy
Yeah.
equipment. It's
Yeah.
really awesome. There's a guy out of Fort Worth that his son experienced TBI, and he built this facility around his son, and
That's great.
been fortunate enough to open it up to the public, and let others go there and utilize those, that amazing equipment and facility, his facility
That's awesome.
alone. But
Yeah.
been going there. I mean, I started off where I couldn't even sit up on the side of the bed, and
Really?
now like with KFO braces, I've kind of like trained my body with like the intense therapy, diet, good diet, and just hard work, and then that
Yep.
mindset of like never giving up.
Damn
I've been
right.
able to kind
Mhm.
of get train my body to where I'm up, right? Like, because I can't physically sit here and just lift my legs or anything like that. I don't have any like movement,
Yeah.
or that. But what's weird is I've been able to train my mind, that mind body connection, that when I am up in the KFO braces, I've taught myself how to take this step, so I can walk in a walker with the KFO braces, and even
Oh,
with like forearm crutches.
that's
I mean,
huge.
granted,
Yeah.
the forearm crutches are like that's the hardest workout I've ever done in my life.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
I mean, it took a while to get there, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't able to do that at first. I wasn't able to even use the KFO braces, And
Right.
I would say, I don't say it's funny, but what's funny about the KFO braces is like my particular injury, the T6 level,
Hmm.
even like, the company that made the KFO braces are like, we don't think you're ever, ever going to be able to use these. Like I needed like the RGOs, like that had like trunk support and things like that. And I was like, nah, like I want to be able to challenge my core. And like, that's the whole point of it. It was like really, tapping into each, muscle group and further pushing that, that level down.
Yeah.
And I convinced them to make them for me. And at first, I'm gonna be honest, I was like, "Dang, I don't know if I can't. Like, this is pretty hard. Like, I don't know if maybe I should have listened." But I'm stubborn, and that never give up mentality. And man, now here I am, being able to use those
That's
braces.
so
And
good. God.
what's, they're like, man, after you, I'll never tell anybody else that we can't make them. If they're willing to try, we'll do it, right?
You
So
know,
that's
that's so great.
yeah.
So you put them on yourself and then just use them every day, or is it one of those things that you try to, is it hard to use functionally throughout the day, or do you work out in them or?
Yeah, so realistically, I mean, it's easier to get in my chair and then go to the store or whatever. And those, I mainly just use them for therapy purposes and like
Yep.
getting up around the house and
Yep.
things like that,
Hmm.
just to stand and keep
Right.
that the blood flow, that muscle or the your bone density and everything like that. I have a standing frame here at the house, but
Okay.
I mainly just keep those at therapy. And we do like intense walking, intense exercises to kind of build that. And I do like personal training and
Nice.
functional fitness, and I have a trainer that's also helped me further build those and just tap into that core that we think that we don't have, but it's there. You just got to find it, right?
Hmm.
Um, for some, right, and then just being able to continue to work at it, and it's a I mean it's a full-time job, right?
It
Like
is. It
just
is.
trying to navigate, trying to be better and things like that. So yeah, I'm mainly using them for for that, not really like an everyday lifestyle kind of thing, just more functional of trying to be better, trying to continue to work at it. And, if it's around the house or things like that, but I don't really take them out into the general public. I mean, I've
Mhm.
practiced like getting in and out of the truck just in case I want to do that,
Right.
but for me, it's like you kind of, as far as I've come, but you also got to be realistic about it too. It's like, do I want to spend, 30 minutes just trying to get into somewhere or getting in or just, rather than hopping in the chair
Right.
real quick and then going
Mhm.
and it'd be easier and quicker and more feasible on that aspect.
Pretty cool. You can still stand up though at home if you want to like reach up something high. You can just,
Right.
that's pretty handy. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
It helps a lot. And I mean, especially with like obviously confidence and things like that, but it's like,
Hmm.
getting off, getting out of your chair is very important, with pressure
Hmm.
sores and things like that. And just getting upright and, whether, like in the stand up frame, whether I want to watch TV or do some work or,
Yeah.
make some content or whatever, just standing and getting out of that all day, every day, sitting in a chair.
That's great. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about, well, a lot about adaptive sports, because I imagine while you were in outpatient rehab, did any of your therapists introduce you to adaptive sports, or how did you even want to get involved or even try them out? Because I know for a lot of people, when you're newly injured, you're like, adaptive sports, they're kind of not my thing. I'm just
Yeah.
used to being in a wheelchair and how did you become open-minded to it and then start out doing it, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, I learned about adaptive sports and patient rehab, and then we did like the community outing or whatever. I went and saw like wheelchair rugby, which
Sweet.
I mean I'm not able to play right
Mhm.
with my level of injury,
Yeah.
but I was like, God, man, that's super intense. I mean that like blew my mind. I mean it's like people the for one like all the diverse functionalities and disabilities,
Mhm.
but for two like how intense they still were.
Mhm.
Um, but I just always have been that, athlete by nature. I knew I wanted to get into something. I didn't know whether it was back into racing and
Cool.
like
Good.
adapt the bike or play some kind of sports or whatever it might be. And then unfortunately, I was able to, connect with some of, I call them vets in the chairs, like, like not
Yeah.
necessarily veterans, but they've been in the chair a long time. So they know all the
Yeah.
tricks and tips, right?
Hmm.
And just, got in touch with one of my now good friends here in DFW that was like, hey, come try like get in a sports chair at UTA. It was my first time over here
Mm,
at University of Texas Arlington, and
nice.
he had a friend that would just let me get in one of their sports chair, kind of shoot around in basketball a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna get me a chair. Just I don't know what sport I'm gonna go after yet. And then I did water skiing. I think water skiing was like the first one that I actually did, but that's like that adrenaline junkie, right? I
That's
mean, because
fun.
yeah,
Hmm.
I want to do that. And then like I actually ended up, unfortunately, while I was in the hospital when I initially got injured, I was dealing with a pressure sore right off the bat.
Yeah.
Just because they didn't take care of me right, I didn't know anything about it. Like
Right?
those are just secondary complications that we don't really know about it until you know about it and have to deal with it.
That's not cool
Um,
though. That should not have happened to you.
right, yeah.
Hmm.
So I dealt with that. I mean, for a year, I got rid of it for a year, and then it came back. So as I applied, and got a sports chair, then I wasn't able to use it because then I had a pressure
Oh,
sore, so I had to stay out of it.
that
Um,
sucks.
but yeah, it does. You're just like sitting around, but you got to take care of those issues first, right? You don't want to
Hmm.
get in a chair and
Nope.
it
Number
become
one.
even worse, and get down to the bone and things like that. And
Hmm.
my first sport, actually, which is crazy, was that I played competitively was wheelchair football for the Dallas Cowboys whelchair football team,
Yeah.
um,
The
which
Dallas,
is super.
yeah, the Dallas wheelchair football team. They have the Dallas one, don't they, down there?
Yeah, actually, I was fortunate enough this beginning of the year, I won a Super Bowl with them. So I played.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
that was my first sport, and to be honest, I've only been playing like adaptive sports. Like I think now I'm going on 3 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
I kind of got up a late start in that, but I
Yeah.
always like stayed working out, training, and things like that. But just trying to get my chair skills built up, and I think being around those established and experienced athletes has helped me come a long ways.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think I'm around 4 years now, but I played like two full seasons with the Dallas Cowboys wheelchair football team.
Cool.
I dipped a little bit in wheelchair basketball. I love wheelchair softball. And then I've done like snow skiing and water skiing. And those
Nice.
snow skiing is probably the thing that gets me the most adrenaline, like motocross did. So I love doing that. If
I
any
do
chance I get,
too. I
yeah.
love sit skiing. Where did you try it at?
I tried initially at Breckenridge. I went
Okay.
there my first time, and then the last year I went to Crested Butte at the Adaptive
Oh,
Sports Center. That was an amazing
cool.
facility.
Oh, you're
Um,
lucky. That's great. I want to go to Telluride myself. I've done Eldora, which is a small one right outside of Denver. It's not that expensive, but that's so
mhm.
cool. You went to Crest Butte. So cool.
Yeah. So, and
Mhm.
then like you said, you see that, and then you start getting into the sports, and then honestly, for when it came to me at pickleball,
Yeah,
I've only been playing, since March of last year.
that's it. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I went to Chicken and Pickle like on like a play day, and I was obviously with standing, able-bodied individual, but
Hmm.
went there and I was like, man, like this is. I think this is why haven't I heard about this as an adaptive sport, right? Because
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about it. Well, honestly, I really didn't even hear about pickleball, but Chicken and Pickle, was kind of newer here in DFW. They have two locations now,
Okay.
but super cool
Mhm.
entertainment facility. Indoor outdoor pickleball. You got your yard games. You got I like to have a good time socially, like whether
Mhm.
it's having a few drinks and
Mhm.
eating good food, and they have all that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so went there and I was like, man, I really like this.
Mhm.
And I think what I saw just from the get go, I was like, this is a sport that because in basketball for a no contact sport, there's a lot of hitting, slamming chairs, and then especially football, right? But
Yeah.
I felt
Mhm.
like what I saw with pickleball was this is a sport that's very easy to learn, not to take away from the complexity of it. And to be elite, you have to put in the work and you have to be a super athlete and all that. But for someone to get out there and learn it is more appealing than some of those other sports because you're not banging chairs around. You're not, because some people want to be active, but they don't want to get out there and play bumper cars as well, right? They've already had a traumatic,
No,
injury or situation. So
exactly. Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, man, like I think there's something here
That's
about
awesome.
that. And then I kind of just did my research. There was no one really around. And then I found a group on, Facebook that there were some players. And so then I was like, all right, how do I create these opportunities for individuals?
Yeah.
And what was another cool thing about Chicken and Pickle that I really liked, and they when I went there to play, I already had my sports share, but I was like touring the facility and like obviously blown away about
Yeah, yeah.
how cool it was, but and how intriguing the sport was for me.
Hmm.
But they have two sports chairs at every location,
No
and they'd
way.
already had
You
that. Yeah,
wait a
that
second. They
yeah,
have two sports chairs at every location.
yeah.
Wow.
Right. And so
That's
then we got 11
Mhm.
locations now. So,
Wow. That's huge.
so that was like a
Mhm.
eye opener too. I was like, well, they got sports shares. So
Yeah.
obviously they're all about community, and
That's
community
so
is one of
nice.
their core values, right?
Yeah.
For Chicken and Pickle.
Mhm.
So it was just one of those things. It was like almost like, meant to be type thing. Like I was in the right
Cool.
place, right time. I,
Yeah.
did the whole social media. I tagged them up, like, hey, I went and tried Chicken and Pickle, and this is a sport for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, and then, they got in contact with me and they asked me to become a brand ambassador. And it started out as that. And,
Cool.
just, doing the brand ambassador thing with them. And then I kind of, got in talks with them of, hey, are they interested in doing like, programming? And then so they ended up agreed to sponsoring courts for adaptive athletes here in DFW. And now we play every Monday. So we got first and third Mondays at Chicken and Pickle Grapevine, and then second and fourth at Grand Prairie. Started off with that. Then, a couple of us here locally that are in wheelchairs and play. Co-founded an organization, the Para Pickleball Program. So we run the DFW location, and and that's exactly what we've seen. You see people that have been in a chair, if not all their life, majority of their life, or
Yeah.
adaptive athlete,
Yeah.
never played a sport, never even been in a sports chair, but they see pickleball and they're like, I can do that. So they get out there on the court, and sometimes it takes a little more
Mhm.
convincing, right, to get them out
Yeah.
there. But once they're on there, they're hooked. And
Wow.
it's
Okay.
appealing to that. So I saw that, and
Mhm.
everything that I was like envisioned, I was like, exactly. We're getting people out that have never been active, that have
Wow.
never played a sport,
Mhm.
that have never done this. And, we get, 10, 15 people out a week sometimes. So
That's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. And
Mhm.
for especially our community, right, to get people out of
That's a
the
lot
house
of
and do
people.
things.
Hmm.
Uh, Sorry about that.
I love that. Can I ask you though, were you ever a tennis player before, or because pickleball, I know it's a fusion of ping pong, badminton, and tennis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
I never played wheelchair tennis. I never played tennis in my life. Like I
yeah.
said, I played
Okay.
baseball growing up until about high school. Then when I started taking motocross, more serious, I just, gave up everything for motocross, but
Yeah.
never did any of that. I just saw like, for one, how easy it is to learn, but two, I love the
Okay.
aspect of
Mhm.
you didn't need other wheelchairs to play. Like I could play with like
Right.
standing players,
That's cool.
kind of like tennis, right? But no other sport besides
Yeah.
tennis and pickleball that you could just get out there with, your family, friends, siblings. I mean, whatever, whoever it may be that, that aren't necessarily in a wheelchair, but you can play on their team or against them. And
Cool.
that was what I loved also about it,
Yeah.
like how inclusive
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, you don't want to always be just stuck with only wheelchair people or whatever, it shouldn't be
Right,
that way. So that's
right.
really cool. Do you think too that pickleball is just like easier to learn just because it's a smaller court then and you don't have to move around as much then?
I think, yeah, I mean, especially in doubles, right? You don't have to do as much pushing around. And,
Right.
for those that aren't very quick in the chair, it's a little bit easier to learn.
Hmm.
And it's very simplicity as far as like rules go and things like that. Again, not to take away from the sport at all, because to be elite at it, like any other sport, you got to put in the work, you got to do all that.
Yep.
But yeah, after they, Chicken and Pickle saw, how much this program took off and how much the interest there was here in DFW. Um, I, by blessing, I got
Hmm.
to sit down with the president of Chicken and Pickle, and I,
Cool.
went out to Kansas City for an event that we kind of did about adaptive sports, and I got to sit down with the president, and I kind of told him my vision and where I saw this, what
Wow.
I thought adaptive wheelchair pickleball could be, and they kind of took a chance on me, and thankfully that that happened, and which was super cool that they're willing to include somebody in our community within, right, to
Yeah, it's
really show them
amazing.
the roads to advocate for not only adaptive pickleball but like accessibility within all our restaurants and things like that, and
So
how to better navigate and things.
there's 11 locations. Are they mainly down in the south of the United States, or do you know where they're all located so if people want to check them out?
Yeah. So, and again, I told them my vision, and then, I came on board as the adaptive pickleball coordinator. So they created a position for me and everything.
It's
Um,
amazing. I love
yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
then we now have adaptive programming at all 11. Oh, we just opened our 11th location in Henderson, but all 10 of our other locations have a monthly adaptive programming where people can go on. It's free of cost and just
Wow.
try the sport, learn the sport, and then get out, be social. I mean, because that's very big too, right? It's not just the
Huge. It's
active and
huge.
physical part. It's like getting out and
Hmm.
being social and getting out of your comfort zone and meeting other people that you can connect with. Um, but yeah, so we got two here in DFW, the Grapevine, Grand Prairie. There's one down in Houston, just south of Houston, Webster,
Okay.
San Antonio. The flagship was there in North Kansas City. There's Wichita, Kansas. There's Overland Park, Kansas. Oklahoma City, Henderson,
Whoa.
Nevada. Now, I mean, they're pretty spread out. And then
Okay.
by the end of 2025, there's going to be 16, and we're going to have two Colorado locations, Omaha, Nebraska, Fishers, Indiana. So it's starting to get further north, right? But
Love
yeah,
it.
I would say like that Midwest, South United
Okay.
part of the United States.
Well, that's pretty cool. I know I live in Minnesota and there's a pickleball chain court place that opened up here. And I live near Minneapolis and I don't know the name of it, but I know it's a national chain too. But I doubt they have all the adaptive things going on that you Chicken and Pickle do. So that's great. Or maybe one day they'll even come up more north. But
Yeah,
um,
I mean that's the plan, right?
yeah. So how about people that have more severe disabilities that maybe aren't able to push and use a power chair? Have you ever seen anyone play pickleball and from a power chair? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. I've seen them. We have people come out that are in power chairs, and
Really?
those that have a little less hand function. It may just be
Okay.
finding a way to put the paddle. Whether it's wrapping it with like the sports wrap or like active hands or things
Cool.
like that. I mean, if you're willing to do it, I'm willing to find a way to help you do it, like adapt you, right? To adapt to the situation, not whatever situation that might be. But yeah, I've seen power chairs play. I've seen
Cool. That's good
limb
to know.
loss. Whether
Mhm.
they have one arm, one hand. I mean, we adapt
Wow.
to the customers or to the participants' need, right?
That's really great. And if
Yeah.
there, do you know if there is an adaptive pickleball like national league or anything like that? I don't think there is, right? Like,
There's not so, and that's been the hard thing, or that's been kind of the growing pains, I guess, right? So it's exploding, right? There's been,
mhm.
tournaments that are now offering, pickleball division or adaptive divisions, wheelchair
Yeah.
divisions, but there wasn't for a long time, at least not at the major tournaments. But
Okay.
a lot of us have been advocating and trying to push that way to, for one,
Yeah.
show that we do have the players. There's a need. There's a big group of us across the United States,
Hmm.
um, and then what's been cool is in the last few months. We've been able to get in some of the biggest tournaments that there is. And so there's the
Cool.
USA Pickleball Nationals, that national champions I just competed in here last week. And then obviously, and then the PPA tour, which is a professional pickleball tour. They also added in a wheelchair division. So I competed
Cool.
on the 4th Monday at Worlds here in Dallas at
Nice.
one of the biggest top tours there is, right? And then
Wow.
turned around, flew out Friday to Arizona, and then competed at nationals. And they both offered wheelchair divisions for the first time.
How did you do?
I took 3 gold medals. I won 3 divisions at nationals, and then I got second here on Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Hmm.
so now there's it's starting to get more recognition. Like the tournament promoters are starting to see, hey, we need this. Like pickleball truly is for everyone. Anyone can play, and then also like providing those opportunities for us to compete at a on that big stage, and whether it's not just like your local tournament that's, oh yeah, I guess we can offer your division, like, but actually it being a
Yeah.
staple, right? Like on
Stable. Hmm.
hey, we need wheelchair divisions at every big tournament or every
Yeah.
you know, promoter needs to add that, across the United States. And it is, we're seeing that the growth has been tremendous in the past year. And there's a lot of players coming out. There's a lot of good players out there. And I think it's taken a, advocating from all of us, but not only from us adaptive athletes, but I see people that, or I meet people all the time, and even at
Mhm.
nationals, they're like, "Oh, I can't wait for this event. I've never seen it before. This is so exciting!" And
Yeah.
and they, you could do singles, doubles, wheelchair doubles, but then hybrid, right? Which is like
Yeah, I was
me
gonna
and a
ask you.
standing player
Hmm.
against another standing and a wheelchair player, and that's what's really cool too. Because in wheelchair adaptive pickleball, there's essentially only two rule differences. The
Okay.
wheelchair player gets two bounces to get to the ball,
Okay.
and then when it comes to like what they call the no volley zone, or the kitchen, right?
Hmm.
Or and then the baseline where you serve
Kitchen.
from,
Yeah.
your smaller front casters can go over those lines, but
Okay.
your big wheels can't. So um,
Okay.
that's
Hmm.
only the two things, because like you could go into a little bit of the kitchen and over the line a little bit, like, and then obviously for standing, they're not able to cross that at all. And so like the no volley zone or the kitchen, like when the ball bounces in there, you can go in there. But it's like, say you hit a shot out of the air,
Yeah.
and that momentum brings you into that, that's a fault technically.
Okay. Okay.
So there's a little bit strategic, differences, and then what I've got from, the standing players is it's made them better players too, because they got to think about that second bounce for one. Like, even if, they
Hmm.
can't just give up on the play after the first bounce, because I'm going to come at you with the second, after, that second shot,
Yeah.
or a shot off that second
Right.
bounce.
Right.
And so that's cool too, just seeing how inclusive it is and having those other general population fight to include us as well. So, and it's
I
taken a
love
big
it.
effort from everybody. And, this is just the beginning of being offered at nationals and the world championships. There's a lot of, I think next year is going to be a even further push for us to, be that staple on these big tours and big tournaments. And, I can't wait to see how far it takes off and things like that.
Who knows? Maybe one day it'll be a sport like I know Paralympic sport even. Who knows? I know that's a big like a far away kind of dream, but it could happen if the sport keeps exploding. I think a lot of people just would love to see, more inclusive sports that allow a variety of abilities, because tennis is
Right.
hard to play, but pickleball, for someone who's a C7 quad, they could probably play pickleball, but tennis would be hard. So I don't
Right. Even if
know.
it's getting out there and just having a good time doing it, like, right, it's still being active. Maybe you never want to be a Paralympian,
Right.
as far as, but yeah, those are my goals, is to have it, be a staple on bigger tours. For one, maybe, be a Paralympic sport, but, obviously it has to come an Olympic sport first, right?
For
And
sure.
then the,
You're
the
right. Yeah, no.
Paralympics will
Yeah.
follow suit
Hmm.
on that. But
Yeah.
so, and that just grows pickleball as a whole,
Hmm.
providing opportunities for all communities to get out there and play, and then just showing that, I mean, this is a need. I see it taking off in other countries now too,
It
so
is
that's huge.
cool. I'm excited. I can't wait to try it myself. I've never tried it yet, but I know that I think I would really like it. I tried to play tennis, but I couldn't. So this
Yeah,
is like,
you definitely get out there and at least try it.
okay. Well, this has been
Yeah.
really cool. I'm gonna have to let you go because Zoom's telling me I gotta let you go. But if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yes, yeah, either by, social media, obviously
We'll
Taylor
have the
Nichols is my,
links. Yep.
is my Facebook, or TaylorMade353 on Instagram.
Okay.
Or, if they want to email me more further about our Chicken and Pickles adaptive programming, I'll send you my emails, that they
Yeah.
can contact me via email on that. But I'm always an open book, always willing to, help others get out there and be more active and get out there and be more social. So any opportunity that I get to do that and just help the next person, and not only, find and become the best version of themselves, right?
You're doing
And
great.
whether
Hmm.
what other aspect that looks like, we'll make it happen. And so feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for this opportunity and just
Absolutely.
being able to speak a
Mhm.
little bit about my journey and about adaptive pickleball and things like that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And I learned a lot, and I can't wait to keep tabs on you to see where pickleball grows in 2025. And
Yes.
maybe at a further point next year, we could have you come back and we could talk about what, if there's some new advancements, we could talk about that. And
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you need, y'all want to do that, I'm more than willing to come on the show and talk about things. And whether it's, I'm also serve on the board of United Spinal,
oh,
here in
you
the North
do?
Texas Trappers. So run a lot of
Amazing.
socials,
Okay.
just like I said, peer mentoring, public speaking, just trying to get out there and not only advocate for our community, but for others, and with still that confidence within them as well.
You're doing so good, Taylor. You're killing it down there in Texas. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your story with us. And I'll make sure to have all the links so people who are listening can get a hold of you. So thank you again and have an awesome day and a great week.
Awesome. Thanks, you too.
All right, see you later.
See
Bye.
ya. Bye.